the Northwest home for paranormal, you're listening to U.S. Phenomenon with your host, Mario Magana.
The 1962 World's Fair, the Space Needle. Good evening. I am your host, Mario Magana. This is U.S. Phenomenon. If this is your first time here checking us out, we thank you. If you're a returning friend, thanks for hanging out again. You can always be a part of the show by texting us at 775-990-5151. Tonight, our guest is someone who continues to be an integral part of U.S. Phenomenon, keeping up, not with the Kardashians, but with politics. Michael Parker has produced over 300 episodes of content related to the mysteries of human history, science, the occult, and so-called conspiracy theories. He hosted a show called Antidote, Dark Matter, and much more. You can find him on Twitter at Michael Parker LA. It is my pleasure to welcome back to U.S. Phenomenon, Michael Parker.
Mario, good to see you.
Man.
Good to speak to you.
Yeah, happy New Year. I know we did the prediction show. I wonder, as you know, we talk about the prediction show. It's kind of funny because I'm like, hey, dude, things are changing rapidly right now. And I know we don't typically always talk about politics, but I thought this might be in line to the prediction show where things are rapidly changing right now with this pandemic now moving to the word endemic. So now we're going to treat this not as a crisis now, but more of a virus that is like the flu. I mean, okay, so, you know, maybe we called it the boomer remover. Maybe it was, you know, maybe we lost a few lives and so much. I mean, there's so many people from both sides of the fence that could say, oh, this is not mine. No, you're wrong. You're right. You're right. You're wrong. Look, and I think this is something that you've said before too, is that you got to use your mentals. You got to be thinking. And I think that what we're going to talk about tonight, pandemic versus endemic, where this is kind of evolving to. And I don't know if even in the prediction show that we talked about, I know that, you know, we had a caller call and say, hey, Biden's going to get COVID. He's going to have to step down. I don't know that we actually predicted this piece in regards to the pandemic. And I was trying to look back at it, and the audio is back at the home flagship station. So I didn't have a chance to do my homework in that piece. But Michael, welcome back to the show. What do you think? I mean, it's so fluid right now. I mean, just like this pandemic to begin with, the COVID-19.
Yeah. Well, thanks for reaching out to me because I was not aware of what was happening in your state with them, with Jay Inslee talking about, you know, rolling back some of the mandates here in California. They originally had talked about in February, the state of California was going to remove some of the masking mandates. My county, Los Angeles County, said, no, we're not going to do that. So even the state of California, Governor Newsom has said we are, you know, going to roll back some of these, but my county and my city have said, no, we're going to hang on. So what I'm talking about is the masking mandate, which is as of, I guess, yesterday. They have now removed some of the mandates here in town and in the county and in the state in regards to outside
Masking
functions. Yeah. So, but I mean, here's the deal. The part of this is twofold. Anybody that watched the Super Bowl saw a stadium of, I don't know, 60, 70, 80,000 people.
Yeah.
With a half a dozen masks on, you know? So, I mean,
everyone had hot dogs in their mouth. Didn't you see that?
People were partying it up and having a good time. I saw the Stones in that same stadium back in October. Nobody was wearing masks. My point is that they had said before the Super Bowl, oh, you know what? You guys are going to have to wear a mask. You can't go in there. And, you know, because Newsom and Garcetti had both been pictured in the NFC championships without masks, right? So there was this big to-do. And Garcetti said, well, you know, I was holding my breath or whatever it was. But anyway, so they made this big thing out of it. You guys are going to have to wear your N95s at the Super Bowl. Well, nobody wore them at the Super Bowl. So now the city and the state, and I think states like yours, they're in a bind because clearly a nationally produced, aired, worldwide, global television phenomena showed people without masks and in close proximity to each other. Now, number two, we're going into midterms. So all of these mandates are extremely unpopular with a large portion of the population. And so there are some Democrats that don't like it. There's a lot of people that are independents that don't like it. There's Republicans that don't like it. What I'm saying is we're going into midterms.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, they do not want this albatross around their neck. But on the other hand, they do not want to relinquish it too quickly. They love having this power. And bro, they're making so much money off this. It's ridiculous. And I don't know if we want to move forward into this part yet, but in a second, or at some point in the show, I was reading some projections about what they're going to do. And there's just too much money in this to completely let go of it. But at the same time, you don't want to lose elections over it.
Man, we're in the wrong business. I tell you that, my friend.
Brother, for sure.
It's interesting because when we talk about this, about the conspiracy of what now, wait, all of a sudden you can take your mask off. Wait, all of a sudden. Okay, so we understand that people have died of COVID-19.
For sure.
Now, when we talk about, okay, that is very much a conspiracy in regards to, hey, man, when you put politics involved in this, they're like, okay, what's interesting, and we'll get into this a little bit later about
Mario, politics has been a huge part of this from the get-go, though. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but I mean, you can't remove the two from each other because it's a big part of what this is all about.
I mean, I know Reagan was, not into big government and whatnot. And it's just interesting as we continue through this. I mean, the audio that we have here about my governor and your governor both having press conferences done earlier in the week. It kind of blows my mind that, okay, I forgot there was even a mask mandate outside. And I was like, why would I ever wear it outside anyways? Unless I was in a group area where I may be exposed to, not like going to a baseball thing, but if I'm like in a group setting where it's like mashed up people, okay, yeah, so you're going to wear your mask. Now, when we look at all this, it's like, okay, here's what I'm telling everyone. You can take this for what you want. So all of a sudden it's like, hey, by the way, everything's like, okay, we're popping this thing off. Okay, so the Super Bowl happened, like you said. Now it's like my governor says, hey, by the way, as of February 18th, you no longer have to wear a mask outside. I'm like, wait a minute. I forgot that was even a thing. Right. Now, March 21st, which we'll play the audio, says, hey, you don't have to wear a mask indoors. Here, let's play a little bit of this, and then we'll get into Gavin's piece as well. Here's Jay Inslee today, or earlier this week.
So we will be removing the mask mandate in our schools and in our public indoor spaces as of Monday, March 21st. That means on March 21st, we will no longer have a state mandate for wearing masks in schools. And on March 21st, we will no longer have a state mandate for wearing masks in indoor spaces.
So on that piece by Jay, someone asked from the AP during the press conference, asked him, are you going to remove the emergency order, which would relinquish his power for the emergency power? He said no, and it was due to the fact that he was getting federal funds. I didn't have a chance to do more research into that. I don't know that it's more of a power struggle. I think that he's going to have to give it up when it comes down to election time. He's had it for like 700 and something days. A lot of people around here call him, King Inslee, but it's just it is politics. It seems to be all of a sudden now that we're getting close to the midterms, the conspiracies are, hey, it's okay. People have died. We know that. But why didn't we treat this a little bit differently? All of a sudden, now we got to take a different approach. And here's Gavin. Why do I always want to call him Gavin McGrath? I don't know why the hell I wanted to do that.
I call him Slick.
Slick Rick.
Well, I just call him Slick because I won't get into it, but he's a horrible
He's
human. But
polished.
let's play that clip.
Yeah, he's very polished.
And so we have work to do as it relates to turning the proverbial page. And what we're announcing here today is about turning a page, moving from this crisis mentality, moving from a reactive framework to a framework where we are more sentinel our approach, that we stand firm and confident as we lean into the future, moving away from a reactive mindset and a crisis mindset to living with this virus. We have all come to understand what was not understood at the beginning of this crisis, that there is no end date.
Oof.
There is no end date. Mario, for your listeners in Washington, I just want to say, so here's what's going. I made some notes so I could just explain this. Here's what the situation is in California. As of February 16th, universal masking shall remain required in only specified settings. Only unvaccinated persons are required to mask in all indoor public settings after February 16th. Let's see, fully vaccinated individuals are recommended to continue indoor masking when the risk may be high. So for my daughter who's in high school, she no longer has to wear the mask outside on the campus, but she does have to wear it on the inside. If you're taking public transportation, if you are in a medical type place or in a homeless shelter, which go figure, I mean, homeless people,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to let that be. But long-term care, those are the types of situations where you're going to continue to have to mask if you are unvaccinated. I'm sorry, if you are vaccinated. If you're unvaccinated, they want you to keep wearing a mask anywhere you are inside, but now you can loosen up on what you do outside. Now, listen, if I'm outside, I am not wearing a mask, period. But what freaks me out about what Gavin just said is I started looking into some of this today because they're claiming here in California that, we're going to be treating this endemically, like you said. And trying to find my note here because, okay, so here's what they said in California. And I would bet they're going to try to do a similar thing in other Western states. But anyway, they're saying smarter. California announces plan to deal with COVID for the long haul. The plan will monitor communities' wastewater systems to detect a spike in COVID-19. Now, I thought we were doing that from the get-go, but here it gets even worse. So they're saying, here's what we want to be able to do as we treat this endemically. And this is where the math and the money comes in. And this is why I don't think any of this is going away very soon. It says the system that we want to prepare is we want to be able to administer 200,000 additional COVID vaccine doses per day. So let's just do some math of 260 working days per year times 200K. That's 52 million doses of the vaccine that the state of California is saying that they want to be able to administer in a year. They want to have at least 75 million high quality masks stockpiled. They want to be able to provide 500,000 COVID tests per day statewide. Again, let's say 260 work days a year times 500K. That is 130 million tests. So we're talking, 200 some odd million, almost 200 million between the vaccinations and the kits, if they were able to do what they wanted to do in this kind of amorphous plan they say they have. Bottom line, that is an incredible amount of money for the providers of these vaccines and these kits and the administration thereof. I mean, dude, this is a gravy train. I can't hear you, Mario.
Oh, I will say this. There is some changes in regards to, I think you still have to wear your mask if you're at a facility like, as you said, a homeless shelter or
Schools,
medical. Yeah. Schools not here.
Brilliant.
Jay's going to get himself reelected, baby. That's how he's going to stay in office. I mean, because
you're right, because even people that are on the left, I mean, some of them don't want their kids to be masked at school, and I'm one of those people.
How do you play sports with a mask on? I'm like,
and they're doing it. They're even doing
right.
College sports and high school sports where these kids are, involved in these sports where they're breathing hard and they're wearing them. Can you imagine playing basketball
No.
or wrestling or something with a mask on. That's nuts.
I mean, I shoot the hoot over down at the Y, and I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm like, to have to take down, get a breath of air before I'm like, I need the oxygen tank hooked up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. So, regardless on what you, and this is what we did say, and I did say this. I'm like, it's time for us just to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yep.
This, I did say this, that we need to rip this Band-Aid off and be done with it. Know your inherent risks. And I'm okay with that, and we should all be okay with that. If you want to get the shot, get the shot. You
Right.
don't want to get it, don't get it. But at
Mario,
least, and then now we can move on. But now there's a choo-choo train with a gravy on it. And it sounds like to me that in whichever state you might be in, which most of us are in Washington other than you, but some of us may travel. I mean, the restrictions just seem, Disneyland, they're trying to lift their restrictions as well. And
listen,
it's
people,
crazy.
Yeah, people want to make money. And, if you're in the service industry, hotels, bars, salons, hair salons, tanning salons, nail salons, I don't know what it's like in Washington, but all of these things have been beat to death in the state of California.
For sure.
And I can't go to the Y. I'm not going to lie. I'm not vaccinated. I have no intention of getting vaccinated now more than ever. So I can't go to the YMCA. I can't work out. I can't, I do have a place that cuts my hair that allows me to go in there without a mask and actually be a real life human again. But I mean, if you own one of these types of businesses and you've made it through the last 2 years and you're still standing, I mean, you really want for people to be able to come into your store or bar or whatever it is, and masked or unmasked, they need to get back to work, and people want this. And so going into this midterm, there's a lot of people who might have voted for these people because of their party, but now it's a matter of just staying in business. And they're like, look, man, if I have to vote against you just to possibly see the end of some of these mandates, I'm going to do it, even though you and I are of the same party.
Right.
So, however, in the state of California, I still don't know that there will be enough, because this is a very blue state with some exceptions. But most large urban cities in America lean blue. So there are orange areas. I'm sorry, there are red areas of California, but not enough, I think, to necessarily kick these people out of office, but maybe so. And I have to commend your governor. I wouldn't have expected it, that he would be lifting these mask mandates almost entirely, it sounds like, on March 21st.
Yeah, but remember, he still has power. He still has an emergency
Yeah.
order. What's interesting is when I was in California recently, in Disneyland, we went to Newport Beach, and God, man, it was like a godsend being in Newport. I mean,
Yes.
that area is very, very red and very nice.
Orange County, yes, you can go down there. I mean, I'm in the 818, which is the valley, but Orange County, that does certainly was always historically red and still leans that way, and it's definitely not as hardcore mandate wise as Los Angeles County.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks how things turn out and how much, you got to think the State of the Union's coming soon. So wouldn't it be nice if Biden could get all of his Democratic states opened up and say, we've opened up the country in his speech?
I would love to see that. Today, when you and I started talking about doing this, I was wondering, I was like, you know what? How many states have the mandates? How many do not? And so I'm just looking through a couple of articles. And one of the things that I said, and I think this might be from the AARP site, but it said to date, 32 states had orders broadly requiring residents to wear masks in public, have now lifted them. 11 states have not imposed mandates at any point during the pandemic, and some, including Florida, Iowa, Montana, Tennessee, and Texas, have moved via legislation or executive action to prevent local governments and school districts from doing so. So yes, there are states, that they've walked away from this entirely. Texas and Florida being probably the most notorious. But then, here on the West, and Illinois and New York, and probably like Massachusetts or something, we are all going to probably bring up the last, being the last ones to move away from this.
We just before we go to break here, when we come back, we'll check in with the paranormal story of the week with Mark Christopher. But when we come back, let's talk about more about the conspiracy on why we think all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's just a common cold now, or
Right.
I think we talked about this a long time ago back in the podcast days, that this was something that was definitely foreign, could have been built man-made. We'll talk about all that coming up right here on US Phenomenon. Welcome back to US Phenomenon. Our guest is someone who's been a part of the show since the very beginning times. He's like, wait, you even have a website? No. Again, our guest, Michael Parker. You can find him at Twitter, at Michael Parker, LA. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We've done shows that, we thought Trump was going to die when we barely knew about COVID,
So I remember that day. So you called me up and we got on it because they were flying him over to, I don't remember which military hospital it was, the name.
Madigan? Was it
perhaps. He was in the hospital for 3 days.
Yes.
And when he came out, I think they had given him Regeneron. I think they had given him the antibodies.
Monoclonal antibodies.
Yeah, I think they had given him that. And do you remember he was just bouncing off the wall for like several days?
Yes.
Right? He's like, I feel great, So listen, it's no surprise that you're going to give the leader
the best treatment ever.
The best thing that you have. But he was out of there very quickly. But I want to backtrack a little bit to listen. Let's just cut to the quick here. I have said from the get-go, and I am not unique in any way in this, but listen, COVID straight up was a man-made chimera. Okay, it didn't come out of a bat that wound up in somebody's bowl of soup. This was a created virus, partially funded by Anthony Fauci and others. And I believe they did it in China so China could be the scapegoat. Listen, I'm no fan of China. I'm not trying to take up for China, but China gave us the plausible deniability. That's why they moved the gain of function work to China. It's like, oh, well, if things go south, we can say, well, it was the bad Chinese that pulled this off. Long story short, this is a man-made virus, and it has definitely killed a lot of people. However, let's continue the C word conspiracy. The other problem is that they've used this creative accounting to say how many people died of this. And we're finding out over and over and over again that, the numbers were exaggerated. And I'm not saying this to make light of anyone who passed away with COVID, but what they did do is they scared the heck out of everybody. Listen, if I have diabetes, if I'm overweight, if I am elderly and I get the flu, that could turn into pneumonia and I can die. But they did not want to talk about any of that in conjunction with COVID-19, this man-made virus. So if you're in bad health and you get this thing and you've got these underlying comorbidities, then yes, you could die. And the whole thing is it's real. I've never said it wasn't real, but they have used this as a tool to scare people, to control people, to move us into an area of social engineering to get us to the next place they want us to be. And that's part of the reason that even though people do not want to lose elections, they are hesitant to let this go because the powers that be that actually control them have said from the get-go, we're going to be doing this thing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm guessing anybody who's listening to this show probably does, then you need to go back and look at this because the information has been there pretty much from the get-go. And I did several interviews. I did some articles and things. And, I got crucified for saying this back in 2020. But it's basically all turned out to be true. And it's amazing that the mainstream media still pretends that much of this is untrue. And, if you tell people a lie enough, it's not mind control. You're just, it's like the song that you hate, but you've heard it so many times. Now you like it. And because you've just been told this over and over and over. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you hear it 3 times, it becomes gospel.
Yes.
I mean, think about this. Think about this in all regards to everything that's been going on from jump. Everyone has had all this information, and now with the social media platforms policing themselves and the narrative, there's so much stuff that's out there that doesn't even. I'm like, whoa, this is odd. This is like you have to turn it off. I have to turn it
Yes.
off. I'm not.
Yes.
I
Agreed.
cannot. There's too much out there, and people need to start using their brains. I kid you not. They're including my older brother, and I'm gonna call him out. Sends me these videos all the time. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. But I mean, he should be an avid listener, but he's not.
Well, let me just say this. I mean, we all, we've all gotten into arguments with our families about this because most people, Mario, most people are good people and they want to believe that the institutions that they grew up with are legitimate and are on their side and are telling the truth. They want to believe that, and to dig further means you're going to have to address some very unpleasant realizations. So I think most people, or a lot of people, they just don't want to. You and I were curious people, and these are the waters that we swim in all the time because we're curious and we're skeptical. But a lot of people just, they want to live their lives. They want to do their job. They want to take care of their family. They want to believe that things are good. So to think that mainstream media is a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year propaganda machine is a hard pill to swallow.
Here's the other thing too. I mean, I the only 2 times in my life did I think that we were going to new one world order: 9/11 and the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, listen,
Closer now than to this day, the pandemic versus 9/11. I mean, we did lose a lot of our own liberties during 9/11 that people have no clue or that are gone. But now more this pandemic really, I mean, we were locked up. We were straight up locked up.
Yes. This is
It was a test. You got to listen. You got to follow the rules.
And we followed the rules. I mean, a lot of people have followed the rules. And
you want to die? I mean, that's how it all turned out. We're like, oh well, yeah. I mean, of course, we're going to stay. We're going to follow the rules. But did you think, 2 years later, we would still be at a level where it's like it got worse, and then this African variant,
right,
changed everything, and all of a sudden, hey, everyone.
But the deal is Omicron actually, in some ways, is a good thing because it's less lethal. It's highly transmissible, but it's less lethal, which means more people are going to get it and have the antibodies, which is that's actually what you want. And this idea that we could have natural immunity was just such sacrilege from the get-go, when in fact that's just regular science, that's regular medicine, that's what you want. And the other thing is, we still are talking about mandates, we are still talking about these rules and vaccines, when in fact they still continue to completely avoid the subject of early treatment. And so ACQ, ivermectin, high doses of vitamin D, high doses
the different
vitamin C. They don't want you to have any of that. The only answer is more rules, more vaccines, and that's not the answer.
I think that when we talk about the different treatments available out there, and I've heard it, and I've seen some of the people, acquaintances having different therapeutic treatments at their consumption. At the end of the day, as like I was telling someone, I was like, if you think the government is trying to kill you, they'll do it. They will do it. Look at one of the presidents. He doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, look what's going on.
That's how I'm like, look, if the government's going to kill me, they're going to kill me. They're going to lock me up. They're going to lock you up. You just, okay. Put down the Kool-Aid. The government's not trying to kill you. Do I follow the rules? Sure. Did I get my shots? Yes. Did things change for me? Hell yeah. Do I drink Coke? Not all the time, but when I did, especially McDonald's, was the best Coke you could ever drink, but now it has this metallic taste in my mouth when I drink it. Not diet, just regular Coke.
That is so strange. You've told me that before. I don't know what that means.
It probably means I'm dying, but
Well, I hope not.
I
I
hope
hope not. But here's the deal. Yeah, you've seen all the videos of these people. Did you see the comedian last week where she said, I'm triple vax and Jesus loves me more, and then she immediately faints on stage? Did you see that?
no, God, and that's crazy. And I mean, I
Don't tempt fate. Don't tempt God. I know that sounds superstitious, but there are more. Listen, there are all these videos. All you have to do is look them up. I mean, there's all these soccer players in Europe, that young men who've had in Australia right now, they're already beginning to have to pay out for myocarditis, pericarditis, Guillain-Barre. I hope I'm saying that correctly. There's a whole list. I tweeted this out yesterday. They've made it really difficult to get a vaccine injury settlement, but they're doing it in Australia right now. You can, if you meet all of their requirements, and they give you this just ridiculously tiny amount, but it's happening. It's happening, and so there are side effects to this, and I don't think that the vaccines are going to go away anytime soon. There is just too much money to be made on them.
and so much for the same with the flu shot, which all of a sudden knowing hey, the flu's gone and it's cured. Remember that?
That was nonsense. Last year there was,
That's because everyone was wearing masks and locked up.
well, that's what they said, but the deal is the PCR tests. I mean, I think a lot of these people that came up COVID positive, I mean, it's because the tests were picking up regular coronaviruses in the form of
Oh yeah.
of flus and colds and things. So, I mean, the whole thing has just been a comedy of errors, and to rack it all up to just incompetence and the blind leading the blind, I think is really ridiculous. These are sophisticated people, and it's just too much to believe that we have struggled so hard in this unprecedented crisis of a coronavirus.
It's just interesting to me too to think about something that even in the book Behold the Pale Horse, going through some of the stuff in his book talking about they're going to shut down the roads and things of that nature. And when I got the passable paper saying, hey, you have the right to drive on the city roads between, unrestricted, I was like, whoa, he was right about that. But what I thinking about all that stuff and moving forward in the modern day and age and world in which we live in, don't you think science should be the number one ruler? Like, okay, duh. We know that, okay, here's what we're going to do. Yes, we knew people were dying. What can we do to better the science? Okay, we're going to try to make some type of vaccination. Okay, yeah, you did that. But people who were getting COVID, who were living and using some of these therapeutics that were killing people, possibly, don't you think that using the correct type of science, like okay, well, this person did have COVID. Okay, now they're immune. Let's get some of their antibodies from their body. Let's see if we can build something out off of that, or then say, okay, hey, you're immune. You're naturally immune now.
Well, Mario, I think the problem is scientists are just people like the rest of us, and so I've never liked the saying "just trust the science." Well, guess what? I mean, scientists are just people. They're just regular people, and there was a lot of pressure to play ball, and you don't want if you're an academician or a scientist or you're in the medical industry, you didn't want to lose your job.
Yeah.
And here's the rules. Here's what we think. Here's what you're going to use. Here's why. And you don't want to rock the boat, do you? I mean, surely you wouldn't want to lose your job. So when they say trust the science, they're just people. And I think that the medical community and the scientific community are going to have a lot to answer for. And I think in the decades to come, we will look back on this period the same way that we looked at, other failed empires and madness run amok like Nazi Germany, and just say, how did so many just good regular people go along with this? Well, they went along with it because they're on a, they need to keep their job. I have a friend the other day who went to get some antidepressants, and this is long. I use an antidepressant. I'm on Zoloft, but the point is, they've got you dumbed down. Antidepressants cost nothing, man. I mean, there are drugs that are very expensive. I have Crohn's disease, so I have to address Crohn's disease with some very expensive drugs. Yet, if I want to just be a, completely flatlined drone, man, it's cents on the dollar. Here's some Prozac, here's some Zoloft,
Right.
here's Xanax or whatever. And so between television, pharmaceuticals, keeping you exhausted, the debt system, people are just worn out. And so I don't want to blame people.
Are you saying that this experiment, this 200 and something year experiment, may be coming to an end?
No. I'm not saying that, and I hope not, because I'm old fashioned and I am pro America. I'm pro Constitution. We talked about this the last time, so I hope it's not coming to an end.
Yeah, right.
And but I think that there is a move that's probably a century old to move civilization into a direction, and in order to move people into a direction, you have to get them on a level playing field. So you have to introduce some kind of new thing into society, and that's not just America, but this is social engineering. This is we are steering people. We are
Wait.
steering people into a future society that some people desire. I don't desire it. I don't want to live in a socialist utopia that doesn't really work. I mean, I'm okay with
We're
competition.
we're working on a show.
I saw that.
Yeah, working
And
on it.
I have some definitive thoughts about that. And I'm kind of rambling, but the mandates, I would like to think that they're going away quickly, and I think they will pull a few of them away to make you think that something's happening as we ramp up to the midterms. But I think the long-term effects of all this, and just like Gavin Newsom says, there's no real end in sight.
When you say that, and as we continue, we start to process this to be a endemic, like the flu or the common colds that we all get, and
Which makes sense on one hand.
and okay, so now that we know this, now that we've been educated, and we know that we're not going to mass die, and maybe there's going to be another version of this coronavirus.
Very well could be, and they certainly want you to think that.
And if that's the case, then everyone gets to choose what we want to do. Well, unless the orders are still in place. I mean, if they said, "Hey, Mario, you're going to wear a mask," I might wear the mask if I'm indoors. I don't know what everyone else is doing.
Right. Listen, if you're in a medical, I was talking to my father 2 days ago. He's in Texas, and we were talking about masks in the Super Bowl. And he goes, "We don't do masks here." And my dad is a very conservative man, and he's done everything the doctors tell him to do. So he's not saying this in the same way that I might be saying it. He believes what they tell him. Point being, certain states are going to handle this differently. But if you're in a medical place or you're in a old folks home or what have you, yes, there is certainly a place for the mask. So I'm not saying that there's no place for masks. It's just, listen, in your car, outside, working by yourself, driving a truck. I mean, listen,
I've seen it all.
yes, we all have. And it's just crazy. I mean, I was at Costco yesterday. I'm walking up to Costco in Burbank, and I make sure I do not wear my mask outside, because at some point you have to demonstrate to others, look, I'm not playing that game. I'm not going to do that. It's like I am in an ocean of atmosphere. Okay, maybe it's Los Angeles air, but I will take that over breathing my own air over and over.
You might need that mask.
Hey, so when I get in Costco, I know you guys aren't going to let me in without it. I'm going to put it on. But walking up to Costco, no way do I have the mask. And I'm just looking at these people driving up into the parking lot. They've got their mask on. They're out there walking to the store with the mask on. And I'm just like, man, you might want to get some oxygen in at some point.
Well, it's funny because not all Costco's are the same, but yes.
Right.
And
this is LA, so
yeah, they have the nice lady there holding if you need a mask. I'm like, oh, I forgot my mask. She'll give you one. And there's people that'll say no, thank you, and they just walk into Costco without a mask on, you know. And
So,
more people are starting to do that around here.
well, I have friends who kind of not in LA, but in other parts of California. And so from the get-go, they've refused to wear the mask whenever they could. And the only way they would put it on is if they absolutely could not go into a place that they needed to go into without it. But I have tried to be more congenial. Look, I don't want to freak anybody out, but I am getting to the point where I'm sick of having to do this. I'm
Right.
sick of not being able to support my local restaurants, bars, spas, salons, hairdressers, you name it, without being fully masked and showing some kind of a vaccination card. Now, the Vax card, I have to have it to do all of those things, but I do have to have it to do some of it. And it's just at this point, there's a lot of people that are vaccinated and they're still getting the bug. I know more people that are vaccinated who have gotten it than I know people that aren't vaccinated. You could say, well, more people are vaccinated. That's true. My point is the vaccination is based on the first version of the variant. Now
Yeah.
they're gradually trying to roll out these new vaccines, but to me, I mean, just common sense, this is not working that well. And if you're having to get 3 or 4 boosters in the course of a year, that's just not a reasonable technology to continue to pursue.
I will say this: when you're talking about the vaccine card, King County here in Washington State is rolling back the mandate to show your vaccination card. So Melissa, my fiance, and I decided to, after we ran a fun run for Valentine's Day. I don't know what that's fun, but we ran okay. And we're like, F it, let's go to wine country. We're out here. Why not?
Yep.
I mean, we ran the calories through. I mean, it sounded good. Took the dogs and went over there. And I swear, man, I've never, and I've been to, and I live a pretty normal life in regards to going out and keeping up with just doing life
Yeah.
now. Do you have your vaccination card? Do you got your vaccination card?
Yes.
Go out to Enumclaw, and I probably shouldn't even say this because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but they're also in King County, but they ask. Then again, it's just if you have it, you have it. Who cares? People trying to spend money in your establishment.
Right. Well, and here's the deal with the vaccination card. There's a lot of people that are showing vaccination cards that are not real vaccination cards. So what ends up happening is the proprietor or the poor guy working the door who's making $15 an hour and maybe some tips or whatever, he's going to say, okay, let me
Man.
see your card. Is it real? Okay, now somebody shows it to you on your phone. The point being is like, this is all so completely unscientific and illogical and unfairly played out. We're kind of all on the honor system on the honor system here.
Not
I don't
everyone.
I don't have a vaccination card.
Not everyone
but
gets a shot every year either. Too, it's just. I just like people just we need to like wake up. I almost want to start a whole new website. Just like I mean, I just want to shake people like, dude, wake up and smell the coffee.
Yep. Well,
Like-
I mean, listen, I think that there are a lot of people who feel the same way that we do, and they're on both sides of the aisle. And some are just indifferent. They're just like, I hate both sides, but I really hate this COVID thing. But there's also people who are just the cult of COVID. Oh my God, you got to wear the mask. You need to be triple vaxxed. We're all going to die, and it's your fault. Which is a really, really unsavory state of mind to live with. But I know some of those people, and I steer clear of them because they hate me for the fact that I have been adamant from the get-go that I'm skeptical of the whole thing and how it's played out. Now, knock on wood, I do not want to get COVID. I know a lot of people who've had it now, and almost everybody that I know that has had it, I do not know a person in my life that's passed away from COVID, but I know that plenty of people have. I'm just saying is there's a lot of things that can kill you, and you need to be healthy to begin with. So don't go out there and, just
That's
live
right.
your life in an unhealthy fashion. And that's one thing the government doesn't tell you. They don't say get in shape. They don't say eat healthy. They don't say drink a lot of water, get some sunshine. The only answer is pharmaceuticals.
Yes, big pharma making that money.
You got to make it.
This show's been brought to you by Big Farm, Big Worm, Big Farm. No, there's no sponsor in regards to that. I'm just joking there. But no, it's crazy as we get close to wrapping things up here in the Pacific Northwest in LA. Wow, we sure have come a long way in this social experiment called COVID-19.
And Mario, you and I have been saying the same thing for 2 years now. I mean, neither one of us have really changed our minds about any things. And I know there's other people who are like us, and we're probably the outliers, but I think there's a lot more people like us than we think. And you know what? It's probably the same on the other side, because there's probably the people that I'm kind of talking badly about, probably they're like, Parker, I didn't change my mind either. So what? We're just at a standstill, I guess. And unfortunately, the authority has the upper hand here. So back full circle to your original point, what's up with them loosening the mandates? I think it's just enough for us to feel like we're being placated as we move into the midterms at the end of the day.
Such a bad conspiracy.
Well, it's just human nature too, man.
Don't wake up and smell the coffee, as as the great author of Behold the Pale Horse, Bill Cooper, once said, "Don't be a sheeple."
Yep.
We should have had Mark on.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Mark. Because I know early on you and I, he was surprised that I wasn't vaccinated, and we talked about that. But at the end of the day, I respect people's personal autonomy, and what they need to do is what they need to do. And actually that goes for me too.
And as we wrap things up, as I'm yawning here, it will be interesting to see what happens here through the summer and into the fall of next year, because I think we'll start to see a spike in September,
probably
some type of, just like the flu, of some type of new variant. And I always call this one the Unicron. If you're into Transformers, it was this big planet from 1980, the Transformer movie, and this big planet came and just 8 little planets along. And in this, I mean, he was like the ultimate Transformer. It's a long story. So for those who are like, the people who are listening, they're like, what? Transformers? I'm out. Gotta go. But no, seriously, it's always fun having you on.
Thank you.
And I think there is the conspiracy of, hey, we need to loosen things up, give them enough to make them feel good again.
Yeah.
And then let's
like we're making some progress.
Right. But the progress still, ladies and gentlemen, we are the people. We elected these people.
That's right.
Remember that. Remember that. And always question and ask. And I love that the AP asked today, when are you going to release the emergency power? And there was no date in set, which blew my mind.
Right here in LA, we've got this Barbara Farrar woman. She's the head of the kind of the Department of Health here. She's she's not even a doctor. She makes, I think, around $450,000 a year or something. It's just insane. And if you were to look at this woman, I'm sorry, but she looks like a straight up ghoul. And this woman is, she's kind of our vaccine COVID czar. These people, they do not want to give up the power. Garcetti, who's the mayor here, Barbara Farrar, the ghoul, Newsom, no, they loathe the idea of giving up the power. And that's exactly why they need to give up the power.
As we leave things here on that note, again, always a pleasure having you on. If you have a comment, you can always send them to mario@onairmario.com. You can find Michael Parker at Michael Parker LA.
On Twitter, on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on Gab. I'm on Minds. I'm on pretty much all of them, although I don't post on some of them that much, but I'm out there, especially on Twitter and Instagram if you're interested.
Man, the TikTok people are going crazy. I'm not on TikTok, but man, my brother sends me all kinds of crap. I'm like, what? There's a lot of crazy conspiracies.
It's funny. I'm not on TikTok either because it's kind of a backdoor for a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I may just have to do it so I can make short form content because there's just too many people out there looking at it.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's bad. On that note, as we wrap things up from the Pacific Northwest, I'd like to thank Michael Parker for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank our sponsors, which we have none. Well, that gives us the freedom to do the show the way we like to do it.
That's right.
We'd like to thank our affiliates, KOSW, KAPY, KGRG, and our flagship station, KVI. For my entire team, who is on the team anymore? We got Jeff Jens, Mark Christopher, myself, Sophia Magana, and myself, Mario Magana. Remember to look up at the stars because you never know what you might see. Good night.
Peace.
Stand by. Let me end that, bro.